Our mountains are among the oldest on earth, and their beauty is a peaceful, comforting beauty. Here land is not something you just stand on. We are enfolded by our land, and growing up in these mountains, feeling them always around your shoulders, your hips, you absorb a sense of being cradled and protected, nurtured by them. I've thought a lot about why we're so attached to these mountains, and sometimes I think it's because this land has a closer likeness to a human body than any landscape I've ever seen. A body is what it patterns in its seams and its joints, its curves and flanks, giving you always a feeling of being held. The mountains are our playgrounds and our source of spiritual replenishment. They are our pharmacies and supermarkets. Many of us still take part of our living from the mountains, hunting and fishing, gathering nuts, ramps, mushrooms, ginseng, and other foods and herbs. And these activities are not just about recreation and eating and doctoring and supplementing income. These activities are often very important family rituals and cultural traditions. They are what keep us connected not just to the land, but to each other. I think it's hard to explain to someone who hasn't lived in these mountains how deeply we feel for them. It's more than just their beauty, although I think this is the most beautiful place on earth. Appalachians are a notoriously homesick bunch, constantly yearning for that return to the family place. And more times than I can count, I've heard West Virginians talk about how they feel when they hit the state border after being away. A great burden lifted, a sweet, safe familiarity, a sense of continuity and stability so different from the rapid pace and constant change typical of lives outside the region. Perhaps more than any other people in this country, Appalachians' identities are tied up with their place. Place is essential to their cultural identity, to their family identity, and to their personal identities. So for their places to be destroyed is for them to lose far more than land. It's a loss of culture, history, and a loss of self.
In southern West Virginia, the place where I was born, there's something evil happening. There's something evil going on. They're tearing up our mountains. They're taking away our hills. They're taking all our homeland and making valley fields. When will they stop this destruction? Oh, when will they ever leave? Just go back to where they came from. Let us live in our mountains and be free.
Well, what a valley fill is they come in and take off all the timber first. They clear cut all the timber. And then they start with the heavy equipment coming in and dozing the overburden off to the coal. And And it's you never know how many feet it is down to the coal. You know, the geologist reports tell them how far they have to go down. And I think at this one up here, they're taking 8 or 9 seams of coal. But they come in and start taking the mountaintops. And they take a gigantic bulldozer and they drill and shoot and blast the rock. And then they take this dozer and they just start pushing all the rock and the dirt and everything over in the valley fields. They also push a lot of timber over in there and bury it, which they're not supposed to do, but they do it.
God gave us these mountains. You can't spend time in them without knowing they were given by God. God didn't intend for us to live on flat land. But living in the coal fields now,
it's like having a gun held on you with a hammer back and not knowing when the man's going to pull the trigger. So it's terrible. It's quiet and peaceful until it starts raining, and when it starts raining, you don't know what you're going to get.
We were at church down the road about 10 miles, a little place called Sycamore, and when we went to church that evening, it was on a Sunday, it was starting to sprinkle a little rain, but nothing serious, and my youngest son was home he's in the Air Force, and he was going to go fishing, so I traded him vehicles, and he took my four-wheel drive, and I took his car to go to church. And my other son, we was in church, and he called the church phone, and I noticed several people was getting phone calls, which is highly unusual in church, and they would go out to the lobby and come back, but they weren't saying anything. And then it come my turn, and my son called, and he said, "Dad," he said, "if you're getting home, you better come on." He said, "It's starting to flood up here." Well, an hour early, it was sprinkling rain, you know. So we came on, and I told some of the other people that live here in this hollow, you know, that we're being flooded. So we got down to the mouth of the hollow. And this 15-year-old boy met us, and he said, "You can't get up a holler." He said, "It's flooded." So I pulled my son's car up in a neighbor's yard at the mouth of this hollow, and several other people started pulling in there, and we had this whole yard full of cars. Well, in a matter of an hour, this 15-year-old boy was drowned, the same boy that told us we couldn't get home. And with him, his neighbor, a 35-year-old lady. They stepped across a little ditch going into their yard that normally was 6 or 8 inches deep, and they were swept away. And we couldn't find them till the next day. And it was the longest night I've ever spent. The families was all huddled together at a house down there, and the families of the daddy of the boy, him and the mommy was there, and the husband of the woman drowned, he was there. We spent the night together, all of us huddled around in this house, and it was a night of unbelievable sorrow.
Well, you know, if you look at the mountains that have been decapitated, and then you know that God has created all of that, and you know, I think it's really a sin against God to destroy the beauty, you know, that He's created. We've had some coal companies actually tell us that it looks better after they've reclaimed it, and how you can actually see the animals running back and forth. And you know, I say, well, what they're doing, they're trying to find trees. That's why they're running. But it's just total devastation, and it's a sin, the devastation.
Coal trains run through our veins, moving monuments to better days. That mountain stands over our darkened lungs. It's time to ponder what we've become. In his company town, it's what we know. Change comes hard, change comes slow, until the bottom falls out That's how it goes down until the money's all drained.
You know, I think it's a shame that at our age that we're going to have to try to fight for our life. I mean, this is 48 years of my life that I may lose. And it's going to be sad that I would have to leave my little town and move somewhere else. And where would I go? I mean, I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford to buy another home. And I don't think that we should sit back and let them destroy us like this. We had our property appraised about 3 months ago, and the value of my home was $144,000. Now I'm sitting on property that's worth $12,000.
I don't think you'll find anywhere people more genuine and down to earth than the people of the Appalachian coal fields. People more generous and hospitable. These are women and men of deep faith, with a strong and dynamic connection to their pasts and a bond with the land sometimes 7, 8, or 9 generations long. Appalachians are raised to be resourceful, strong, and self-reliant. But under their toughness lies a graceful gentleness, as well as a kind of honesty, integrity, and humility that has nearly vanished in many parts of the contemporary United States. They are fiercely loyal, first to family, but also to community, state, and nation. Appalachia sends a greater proportion of its sons and daughters to defend our country, and it routinely loses a larger percentage of its children in wars than other regions do. This is a region renowned for its work ethic, and its people have given a great deal not just to our nation's defense, but also to its workforce, its mines, factories, mills, and farms. Appalachia has also, for over 100 years, contributed tremendously to America's demands for energy. Miners are not the only ones who have contributed. All coalfield residents have paid a price for Americans all over the country to have power. They've sacrificed their health, their environment, comforts and conveniences most Americans take for granted, and they've sacrificed their own lives and the lives of their family members. These are people who have given and given and given, and they've never gotten back as much as they've offered up. For the most part, they've sacrificed without complaint, both because of their senses of loyalty and responsibility, and because Appalachians are brought up to take care of themselves without depending on others for help. But now they're being asked to sacrifice the land itself, to sacrifice their place. This is one demand too many. When the land goes, with it goes their homes, their culture, their history, and their identity. It's up to you to ensure that these people are not forced to make this final, unbearable sacrifice.